Good afternoon. My name is Matt Hall. Teaching children is something I've never wanted to do in my life. I actively try to avoid it in my day-to-day job, but recently I was presented with an opportunity to start teaching guitar lessons to children in an after-school program. They are going to be in the elementary school range, so today for my speech, I thought I would gear that towards the 5th grade audience and teach everyone watching and listening how to play a G chord on a guitar if you're unfamiliar with it. The major G chord is a staple of bluegrass and country music. This is one of the first notes I learned when I started to learn how to play guitar. It's a great starting point for most songs in the genre, and knowing this basic chord allows the player to begin to start putting accents on the chord or doing what we call in bluegrass music runs, which is simply just a fancy word for solos. So let's start by talking about the G major chord. It's, like I said, it is the first chord that I was taught when I was a child, as I spent my evenings around guitar players and bluegrass musicians in the hills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Bluegrass legend Bill Monroe cemented this chord into the lexicon and made it the most important thing in country music on his Opry debut in 1939 when he came out and played some of his classic bluegrass tunes that started the genre. This is information that I picked up from the book Can't You Hear Me Calling, which is a wonderful biography of Bill Monroe I read some years ago. So with that being said, the G chord is important, but why is it important? Knowing this chord will allow the player to know the root of the music. The root is also a musical term that we use, which just means the most important chord in the song. It's a wonderful starting point for most songs. It allows the player to begin learning most of the music in this genre of country and bluegrass. When I was learning to play, I was taught by old men to just play one chord at a time, learn that finger motion, and just strum along with them and not worry about changing to the other chords that they went to, but to simply just pick up the rhythm and get used to my finger being in that position. But any aspiring musician wants to move past just this basic ability to play the major chords and wants to get into more complex things. And that's one of the beauties of the G major chord. It's also the simplest major chord to build upon to start doing these runs or to play solos. Lester Flatt, who is one of the fathers of bluegrass, introduced this very simple G run that just hangs on the bass notes, and that's too complex for this talk, but there are many other videos that will go into depth on that. He used the G run as an accent to allow the listener of the music and the band members that he was playing with to know when his solos were done or when they were moving on from that verse that they were in. So, before we go any further, I thought I would use my guitar to show you just the basic G chord. It's that simple. But this being one of the simplest chords, it opens up the door to the entire genre of music. And it's used in other genres as well, it's just not as focal. Like I said, in conclusion, this lesson was aimed at 5th graders or young elementary school people, children trying to learn or might have an interest in musical instruments for the first time. So in review, the G chord is a staple of the bluegrass and country music genre. Knowing this chord gives all musicians a starting point in which they can sit down and play with anyone if they just know this chord and know the flow of music from there. And it's also the easiest chord to learn variations solos or runs from to make the player go from beginner to intermediate in skill level. I learned this chord sitting on a porch with old men on Sunday evenings as they sung gospel songs, traditional bluegrass songs, and other songs that to this day I still play. Learning this one chord has brought me hours of joy and endless memories, and I'm sure the next generation, as they learn it, will share in the same thoughts. So thank you for listening to me today. Have a wonderful evening.